Welcome to This Explainer. You know that intense, hair-pulling frustration you feel when you try to learn a new skill as an adult? We usually think of that feeling as a massive roadblock, right? Like we're just not cut out for it. Well, today, we're completely reframing that. By the time we're done, you're going to see that exact frustration as your absolute biological superpower.
Let's kick things off with a quote that completely changes the game. It says that the agitation you feel when you're struggling to learn is not a sign of failure. It's actually a chemical signal that your brain is entering a high plasticity edit mode. Scientists actually call this internal friction the lactate of the mind. So just like your muscles literally burn when they're growing at the gym, your brain physically burns when it's rewiring. That painful friction, it's the absolute biological prerequisite for adult neuroplasticity. Basically, no burn, no change.
Section 1. The Illusion of Failure. Rethinking the Agitation of Learning.
To really grasp this paradigm shift, we need to define something called instructional plasticity. This is the biological mechanism we use to literally force our stubborn, highly efficient adult brains to update their rigid ways. See, your adult brain doesn't actually want to learn, not at all. Its main job is to save energy by building successful models of the world, and once it finds a model that works, it locks it in tight. So learning in adulthood is essentially the deliberate, heavy lifting of forcing that rigid machinery to update itself.
Think about why picking up a language or a sport felt so different when we were kids. A child's brain is basically half-baked. It's hyper-connected, soaking up absolutely everything like a wildly absorbent sponge. But as we grow up, we transition into this deeply rigid state. Our brains become incredibly efficient. Now, that efficiency is fantastic for getting through your daily routine on autopilot, but it's a massive obstacle to new learning, because your brain is actively resisting change just to conserve calories.
Section 2. Pruning your neural garden. The mechanics of neuroplasticity.
So, looking under the hood here, according to Dr. Elena Vance, true neuroplasticity isn't about just wildly growing new neural branches out of thin air. It's actually a process of anti-forgetting. I absolutely love this analogy. Imagine your brain at age 2 as this wildly overgrown garden. Learning isn't planting new seeds in that space. It's the biological act of heavily pruning back the overgrowth to strengthen very specific, highly functional pathways. That agitation you feel? Yeah, that's the chemical signal that your garden is finally getting trimmed.
Now, what's mind-blowing is the specific neurochemical driving this whole process. It's called acetylcholine. Think of it as a pointillist artist inside your head. It literally physically dabs and marks specific local circuits for change. But here is the big catch. It only does this when something doesn't match your existing predictions. It only marks the canvas when you make an error. And this brings us to a really fascinating comparison. This pointillist artist activity perfectly explains why an amateur learner's brain is just completely on fire. It's burning intense amounts of calories, constantly simulating every single what-if scenario, because it's making errors and scrambling to adapt. Compare that to the ultra-low-calorie, effortless brain of a pro, like, say, Serena Williams. For her, hitting a tennis ball isn't a simulation anymore. The skill is permanently burned into her neural hardware. Her garden is already perfectly pruned.
Section 3. Protocols for Adult Mastery, Taking Control of Your Brain.
All right, so let's transition from the why to the how and build out a practical toolkit. There are 3 core protocols for cultivating adult mastery. If you want to actively break out of that rigid path dependence we talked about, you're going to need to implement these 3 steps: embracing agitation, active self-testing, and seeking novelty in play. Let's break down step 1. The absolutely crucial point here is embracing the agitation. Just like lifting heavy weights at the gym, if a mental task doesn't create internal friction, your brain has literally zero reason to undergo the heavy lifting of changing itself. You have to consciously keep yourself right in that sweet spot between frustrating and achievable. If it's too easy, your brain just defaults to its old, rigid models. Remember, no friction means no neuroplasticity. Protocol number 2 is active self-testing. And look, this next concept is a really tough pill to swallow if you're a perfectionist. You don't learn from performance, you only learn from failure. Research consistently shows that students who do low-stakes testing learn significantly faster. Why is that? Because being willing to make private errors and actually recognizing them forces your brain to perform the error correction it desperately needs. That's what summons the acetylcholine to update your internal maps. Protocol 3 is brilliantly simple. Seek novelty. You need to intentionally inject some noise into your predictable daily routines. And this doesn't have to be a huge, life-altering undertaking.
You can trigger plasticity just by doing something like brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand, or maybe taking a totally new route home from work. You're simply waking up the brain, signaling that the environment has changed and that its rigid models need to be on high alert.
But beyond just simple daily novelty, the ultimate hack for plasticity is play. Engaging in low-stakes play puts your prefrontal cortex into what scientists call a high-opioid, low-epinephrine state. So what does that mean? It means you feel good, that's the opioid part, but your adrenaline is low, meaning there's no real-world panic or stress. This state vastly expands your brain's catalog of potential outcomes, making you incredibly flexible, completely free from the paralyzing fear of messing up.
Section 4. Consolidation and wordlessness, the hidden phase of learning.
Okay, but here's the shocking reality where all that hard work can easily go to waste. Your brain does not actually learn during the activity itself. I know, it sounds crazy. During your intense sprints of focus, you're really only marking those circuits for change. The actual wiring up of those skills, the physical transformation of your brain tissue, only happens when you rest and, most importantly, when you sleep.
And to properly allow your nervous system to consolidate all those massive updates, you have to prioritize something called wordlessness. This means taking intentional, completely disconnected breaks from your phone, from social media, from all external information input. Imagine going for a quiet, one-hour hike where you consume absolutely zero content. That's silence. It's not wasted time at all. It is the critical phase where your brain resets and solidifies everything you've just struggled so hard to learn.
So understanding this entire biological toolkit leaves you with one final, very empowering choice. When you feel that intense burn of frustration tomorrow, are you going to back down and remain a passive consumer of your environment, or are you going to lean right into the agitation, embrace the errors, and become an active creator of your own neural circuitry? The biology is literally waiting on you. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Now go out there and break some paths.